I'm going to ask our viewers, just imagine that there's a formula that will help you succeed. Any one of us, be it a student or a homemaker or a corporate executive or a startup founder, wouldn't that be amazing? Our guest today, Rakesh Godhwani, has come up with a formula for success, which he calls the 6 C's. Rakesh, can you tell us more about this formula? I am very interested to know about it.
Yeah. So in my research and in my work with every learner ranging from 9 years to 55, 65 these days, I started first with teaching them communication. That, okay, let's learn how to speak up. But then I realized many people really don't have a communication problem. They are very articulate. Their problem is they're scared to speak up. So I started going deeper into the work and I found out that confidence and communication are connected. Your ability to think about your own self confidence and self esteem is directly connected to how you will speak in that room. So I started focusing on that C, which became confidence. And these two are the tip of the iceberg. And then I said that something is still missing because below the iceberg comes a tremendous amount of personality and behavior of a person, which comes from four more C's. That if a person has to communicate with confidence, because that's the tip of the iceberg the audience sees, if this person is not well read, not curious, their minds will not have the fodder to think about the sentences. And we know for a fact how reading and literature study and hard work on education has kind of gone down. We are more focusing on faster mechanisms of getting work done. So curiosity is very, very important in this game. And good people who speak well, are amazing leaders, are very curious. So that became the third C, that how do I help my learners become a lot more curious? And that's where I myself, I'm a late bloomer. I started reading and listening to these variety of things now. Can you believe it that I've now suddenly started a love for poetry at my age? I should have done this when I was 15, but I was not curious enough. I thought, poetry? Why would I need to learn poetry? But poetry is an amazing tool to create amazing messages, and that becomes curiosity. And then I started to realize that, okay, that's not enough. A person has to be able to think in a variety of ways, and that's where creativity comes, their ability to think differently and apply techniques to solve the problem in a different ways, bring in all kinds of techniques to give their product a little bit better shape and visual appearance. So that's the creative world. And then two more, which is this person can speak very well, is very curious, is very creative, but has a lot of social anxiety. So he doesn't want to talk to anyone. And that became collaboration. So we started working on collaboration. And finally, I was convinced that there is one last C which I need to focus on, that if a person realizes their competence, what they are good at, and connected to all of this, the equation complete. So I call this the 6C framework, which is you have to be confident, you have to communicate better, but you can't do these two if you're not curious, if you're not creative, if you're not collaborative, and if you don't know what you're competent. And this formula is what we focus on in all our programs, and every learner goes through them in the variety of product that we have.
That's a very nice explanation of your formula for success, the 6 C's of success. Thank you, Rakesh Godhwani, for sharing it with us. As a writer and publisher, I cannot emphasize strongly enough the importance of reading and then continuing to read at any age. Reading opens up our mind to new lines of thought, and we can absorb and reflect on ideas at our own pace. Rakesh Godhwani has written a couple of books on the subject of communications. Rakesh, I was on the panel at the launch of your very interestingly titled book, What to Say and When to Shut Up. And since then, you published another book, Public Speaking Kaleidoscope. Can you tell us what's different in these books, between these books, and what can the readers get by reading them?
Sure. Um, I write because it gives me a amazing experience to think better. I don't consider myself as a great writer. In fact, I'm very grateful that I had a good publisher and editor in Penguin Random House, and probably they were very kind to take my manuscript. And I've written 4 books. The first one was my journey from how I left the corporate world to academia in my own way. And then the second one was that when I was in the institute heading the alumni of IIM Bangalore, I started to see how students and alumni can be connected. So if I tell the stories of alumni, a lot of students will get answers about their careers. So I wrote Seek, which was my second book. Then I wrote my first communication book called What to Say When to Shut Up, which is right here. And what I wanted to do was solve 2 problems. That the first problem was, I think we Indians have a problem in knowledge systems where we depend on Western books to tell us what we have to do. And Western philosophy is very powerful, but sometimes we don't realize the problems of an Indian student, which is languages and confidence and cultures. And so I thought I'll bring a flavor of that in this book, which is nothing but a simple recipe of how do you make a persuasive message. So there is a 6-step formula, which is the AEIOU extra formula, which all my learners would know by now, with a lot of practical cases, practical examples that I went through and the challenges. So this is what the learners can expect from this book. And not only that, in the back of the book, there are lots of references and notes, books from all over the world, resources which the reader can really start learning if they have to become a lot more persuasive. And this book is a popular book. It does very well. I'm happy with the way my readers write to me that they are able to make better presentations, do better negotiations, and manage conflicts and make better pitching when it comes to entrepreneurship. The fourth book I wrote was much different than that. That when I was doing my PhD and I stumbled on literature review, which was so delicious, I thought I had to put it in a book. So this book is actually nothing but the literature review of my. And the reason I published this was that I wanted all communication researchers out there to pick this up and not waste too much time in going all over the place, because literature reviews like finding few small needles in the haystack. So someone can take this book and extend the research further. And public speaking kaleidoscope is actually a very simple concept that don't look at communication from one view. Look at it from 3 separate views. That's why I call it a kaleidoscope. And the first view is the classic theory of sharing with each other. The second theory is the classic theory of changing each other, which is persuasion. And the last is the new theories of charismatic leadership. So, what I was able to do in my PhD and in this book is bring in that element that I have connected communication and leadership. And that's what I think we should start working on. That this is a subject that cuts across sciences. That's why there is no communication department in various universities. Most of the communication professors would either be in humanities or social sciences, even psychology and philosophy. Some of them could be in various other fields like linguistics, because this subject really goes all over the world. And in this fourth book, it's more for the academic oriented people, but written in a very simple way. What to Say, When to Shut Up is a more popular genre which can be picked up on the airport or any bookstore so that they could get a quick idea of how to get better.
Good. So that's a lot of happy reading hours ahead of us by reading these new books by Rakesh Godhwani. You know, the great playwright Bernard Shaw once said, "Those who can, do. Those who can't, teach." But Rakesh Godhwani has proved this wrong. because he gave up a very successful career in the corporate world to take up teaching. Rakesh, tell us what prompted you to make this shift. Why did you choose to take up teaching and giving up your corporate career?
Yeah, that is my favorite question, which I get asked a lot. In fact, the entire first book, though it's not my biography, has stories of other people who have taken up plunge. And now this is a podcast. It's called Plunge, and it's available on all podcast platforms. And I'm doing season 2 of this podcast again. I found out a very interesting experience in my own life that I was 21, got my first job, uh, was very ambitious, and still am very ambitious. And for me, career was this very linear thought process at that age that, okay, I'm now this, the next promotion is this, and then you keep working and okay, you do a MBA. So I did a part-time MBA program. I'm not a very good student, so there is no way I can write those heavy duty exams. So I find ways to get work done. So I did a part-time MBA program from IIM Bangalore called PGSM, very lovely program designed for people who want to work and study at the same time, and started to realize that there is so much more to life than just taking promotions and moving linearly. And then I started to realize that I have other skills. And one of my other skills was that I could connect with people and engage with them and teach them. So I started doing lots of these workshops where I would just pro bono go and teach them how to speak with confidence, listen to them. And I loved it. So by 2007, I had two jobs. Monday to Friday, I was a corporate warrior, very successful. I was in Qualcomm by that time. I had left engineering to become a sales guy, to become a business development manager, to a product marketing manager. So I've done that. Very difficult to transition, but I was this person who demonstrated you could do it. And Monday to Friday, very successful, ton of money. I was traveling business class, eating the best food and wine in all parts of the globe. And but deep inside, I would come home every night and I would be very hollow because I would say to myself that what did I achieve today except make a few presentations, throw my weight in a meeting room, um, try and talk some smart things with no impact. But on Saturday, Sunday, when I would enter any classroom and I would see the joy of learning together, my eyes will become big and their eyes would become big. I would come alive. And then it took me few months to do some reflection. And I think it was Bombay 2007. I sat down. I think it was 2008 early. I sat down on Bandstand. That's where I used to live, very close to the film stars and the lovely promenade. And I called up office and said, I'm not coming because I was disillusioned. I was 30. I had wonderful career path with I could have become a director, vice president, whatever I had uh, planned. But I was extremely unhappy. I was dissatisfied. And when I looked at my weekend job, I was alive and extremely happy and very satisfied. I think this is what is called meaningful career. And I realized that I had to take a plunge. And I'm not very risk prone person. I'm the most risk averse person. That too, I come from a family of Sindhis. Sindhis are known to be brilliant businessmen and businesswomen and very risk taking people. I am exactly the opposite. I am highly academic and highly risk prone, risk averse. I don't even invest in stocks. I have zero stocks in my life. And So I decided to take a plunge, which is a simple lecture I give in all classes that deep inside you have a homing beacon about your career. It's like a carrier pigeon. The carrier pigeon knows which place to go, but life tells us that, hey, don't go to that place because it's a little tough place to be in. Why don't you go to this mall? It's much more easier there and you can enjoy your life there. So the life takes us to these beautiful malls and we do enjoy the life in a mall for 4 hours, but then deep inside we yearn to go to that beacon place which is our promised land. And that is the plunge I took, that I decided that I will focus full time in teaching. I was very clear that I will not be a full time professor anywhere. Even after completing my PhD, most people would apply. I feel I'm not good enough to research and publish papers, so I never applied and became an entrepreneur because I wanted to take this science to a million people. So teaching gives me that purpose, and the ability to talk and interact is what gives me joy. And I had to then find how to earn money out of it, which is in India not easy. Teaching profession is still very low in the totem pole of priority. We have serious problems in education. So I said, I'm going to do my bit and solve one or two problems. At least I'll provide a curriculum which can make learners more confident and communicative. And then I work a lot with institutions to bolster their faculty and create new ideas so that the experience of learning can be better. So, coming back to your question, um, I think plunge was my journey of how I left that to do this. And it's been 13 years, and every day is still full of. I come alive. So I have two classes after this session, and I'm looking forward to that.
So, what has teaching taught you, Rakesh?
It has taught me to be extremely curious and a lot more humble than what I was. Teaching is one of those careers where you get instant feedback. You know you're in the right track or the wrong track within 2-3 minutes of class getting started. And in one of my programs at the institute, I work with a lot of institutes. I got horrendous feedback. I think I was rated as the worst course in that quarter. But that incident taught me how to be humble. I could not give what my learners want. Now, many professors have an attitude, "Kya what will this learner know about education? And I'm such a PhD, God's gift to mankind." So they would not take that feedback serious. But I said that I teach the 6 C's and I teach them to be gracious about feedback. Why would I not do it to my own life? And that feeling liberated, that I have nothing to prove to anyone. I will still teach because I love it, and I will deliver my promise, and I will take that feedback and improve. So it has become this ever day improvement process. So I read a lot, so I'm very curious, which is why I'm always excited because I learn something new. And second, it has grounded me and liberated me from every issue that was earlier bothering me. That earlier I used to think that I have to get 5 out of 5 feedback score. But now I don't bother about that. I say that that number doesn't matter. What I want to know is the sentence you have put and what you have said, because that becomes my fuel to research better. So they write questions that, "Sir, you did not cover this." Now I will research, I'll read a book, and I'll try my best to answer. So it made me a better human.
Now that you have a foot back again in the corporate world with your edtech startup, how was the experience different?
Entrepreneurship is very different. Though I have experienced certain part of entrepreneurship, the first lesson of entrepreneurship is that you don't get a paycheck. So I have experienced that from 2010, and more so from 2012. Uh, and so I kind of am comfortable not getting a paycheck. That is lesson number one. Lesson number two is entrepreneurship teaches you a lot more things, which is you have to now convince people to start working with you. You have to start convincing people to invest in you. You have to start having a narrative which is consistent and much more ethical. And it is a full time job. So, um, I and my wife and my children, our children are a very big part of School of Meaningful Experiences, because I told them that Papa is not going to be home because I now have to give School of Meaningful Experiences my 200%. And they very sweetly said that, "Don't worry, we're not going to bother you," because earlier I used to go home early. We used to go out for an ice cream. But from 2018, I told my family that I think I will be gone for a few years. I will still be there, but I have to really get this thing to a certain level. So it is the most uh, difficult project I have taken. And I am, I mean, it's surprising that I start my day with tremendous fears, because unless the revenue comes in, you cannot pay salaries and cannot take this dream forward. And then you still have to dream in that scenario that, okay, let's keep trying. So it has made me a lot more resilient. There are days I completely feel that, okay, this is it. I can't take it anymore. I can always apply to a professorship and escape. But then I go back to the whole concept of teaching, that a teacher tells the students, don't give up. So why would I give up? And so entrepreneurship has been that journey which has always told me that, hey, keep walking. This will take maybe 10 years more. Burn yourself without burning the health. Burn your effort into this. Because I feel that if I can get School of Meaningful Experiences to a good place, I can impact millions of learners who can then feel empowered to speak up, who can say something which makes sense. And by that virtue, they can live a meaningful life. So that keeps me always motivated. And I have been blessed with amazing family, very good investors, very nice employees, my colleagues. I couldn't have asked for a better time. And so I only can work harder to make sure that all of this go to the promised land that I wanted to go.
Thank you for sharing these very, very meaningful experiences with us, Rakesh, both as a teacher and as an entrepreneur. I come from a family of teachers myself, and I know that there are any number, thousands and thousands, maybe lakhs of students who have been impacted by my parents, by my aunts, by my sisters. And I think you're doing a wonderful service to people by teaching them how to communicate better and lead better lives. Thank you for joining the show, Rakesh.
Thank you for having me, Sandhya, and have a wonderful year ahead.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Spotlight with Sandhya. I look forward to seeing your comments. Do like the Raintree Media channel, subscribe, and share. You can also listen to this interview as a podcast on Google, Spotify, or many other platforms. Keep watching. Take care and bye bye.